Welcome back to the Team Talk with Tom and Jack. I'm Tom.
And I'm Jack.
And this is episode 4.
It is indeed. We host this podcast to inspire coaches, teachers and parents in order to help improve children's wellbeing together.
This week we welcome our guest, Paul Thornley, actor, cricket enthusiast and dad.
We discuss a variety of topics, including the benefits of therapy, the life lessons he's learned through sport and the role of Ron Weasley.
We hope you enjoy it, team.
Paul, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on, mate.
It's lovely to be in your kitchen.
Hey!
We know Paul, don't we, from various things around where we live. We've had the pleasure of playing cricket with Paul. And Paul, you've had a pretty, amazing career now in acting and drama and that. So we're going to touch on that hopefully at some point in the episode, as well as our sporting experiences and whatnot. So we'll kick it off as we tend to do with what was your first memory of sport as a child?
I think my initial memories of sport were not getting picked.
Right.
That was, I've got quite vivid memories of being pretty poor at football, which I played again football for the first time in 15 years on New Year's Eve, and I've still got that skill set of being very, very bad. Nothing's changed. And being quite bad at quite slow, running for buses. I was always quite a long way behind everyone else. It was a bit of a struggle initially, sport.
Yeah, as it is for quite a few people, isn't it? Have you got any positive that shine out as like, that was a moment that in my childhood changed your perspective on sport, perhaps?
I think wandering into Bushy Park in Hampton Hill, and there was junior cricket taking place, and they were on where we were going to play football. Everyone were a bit annoyed that they'd taken over our football space. So, but anyway, we joined in, and I think I probably hit a ball and went, "Oh, I like this. I think I might be able to do this."
Yeah, and
I definitely remember that being a massive moment in my childhood, going, "Oh, there's something that I'm all right at." That's massive.
Yeah.
No, that is huge. That is huge. And that's something obviously that you carried on kind of the whole way through. How important was that for you sort of in your sort of formative sort of teenage years to have a thing that you were passionate about?
I became utterly obsessed with it. I played at school. I played for Hampton Hill Cricket Club in as many levels as possible. I think I probably played most days in some description, or in my friend's garden with all of his brothers, or it definitely was my obsession from 9 till 14, and then other factors came into play, but certainly those 5 years. It was quite irritating because if you do have a hobby as a child, then every single birthday and Christmas present is all then related to that subject. Yep. So you think, oh, brilliant, that's another cricket book. I mean, I wasn't necessarily interested in reading about cricket.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play it. So there's probably still a huge pile of unread cricket books.
There's a very fine line, isn't there, between
in the loft,
a 12-year-old guys to cricket as opposed to a new bat.
Yeah, okay. New bat. Yes,
yeah.
Michael Atherton's biography of something or other in 1987. Less so.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael.
Well, I think that's a shared interest, isn't there, with cricket? I think similarly, we all played it at a youth level and really enjoyed it. Have you got any standout memories from when you played youth cricket that you go, when you really got into it and you were playing in those sort of 9 to 14 years?
Yeah.
Any moments that are like, yeah.
There was always the sort of posh clubs where all the fancy kids went, and they were always going to play for Middlesex.
Who got 2 new bats for Christmas.
Yeah, who got 2 new bats for Christmas. Probably read the cricket books, and we those big games against Sunbury, for instance, and we won the league and went through to the regional fight, which felt like the most important and exciting thing in the world. And I've got a friend who was pretty hopeless, and there was an England opening bowler called Richard Johnson, who was the fastest bowler we ever played against, and basically he was trying to get out of the way, and it hit his bat and went for 6. He claims he hooked Richard Johnson. It was absolute nonsense, but he was just trying to get out of the way, and he was bowling really fast. So things like that I have massive memories of, and trying to. I opened the batting with another bloke, and Richard hit him in the ribs, and I just saw his eyes welling up with tears. I thought, you can't cry, if you're opening the batting. You can't. I think that's what I said to him, because it was the final. And he was very brave after that.
Brilliant.
Well, it is in particular, batting in cricket, that it is a real, not quite gladiatorial, but it is really intense, that whole situation. Batsman, bowler, fast pace, it is a small thing coming at you at the pace of a car, it's still gonna hurt. So that's a really interesting thing to get your head around, especially for young sportsmen, women, overcoming those obstacles, the perseverance that is required. These are real big life skills going forwards. So we're going to slightly change gears now and talk about acting, because obviously that is what a lot of people know you for. So your acting career itself sounds like it actually came from a bit of a just sort of bring along young Paul situation with your mum.
Yeah, my mum was very into amateur dramatics and was part of a group at Kingston University, and they were all, I don't know, they were university age, so they didn't have any kids. So if ever they were doing a show that required a child, I got drafted in, which I thought, and I loved it. So I, played various paper boys and things in shows with my mum. And, that became something I loved, and I joined youth theatre and really, really enjoyed being part of that. It's very much the same as sport and, being part of a team. I got asked to do a one-man show once. I couldn't imagine anything worse. It's not what you do it for, is it? It's like you can't play cricket on your own. So then I, went off to did my A-levels, and it just became clear that I was struggling to find other things to do. Other than that, it seemed to be that's where my gifts lay. And that's what I was passionate about. So then someone said, why don't you audition for drama school? So I auditioned for drama school and got into a couple, and then decided to go to Guildford to train in musical theatre, because someone said, listen, the more you can do, the more chance you got of getting a job. So did a bit of singing and dancing, met some great people who I'm still friends with now, and thought, well, I'll just keep going and see if I can earn a living. And didn't earn much of a living for quite a long time. Had to do various different jobs and do some pretty poor acting work, which I'm quite glad wasn't filmed. Like that, it wasn't the age of Instagram. But still going, which is not bad after 25 years.
It's almost famously hard to get yourself, sort of off the ground and all that sort of thing with acting. That's one of those careers that is almost cliched for how hard it is for, a struggling actor kind of situation. What was it that helped you to persevere through the amount of no's and the amount of, setbacks and low paid situations, and things weren't particularly pretty from the get-go? What helped?
I think it's, even if you're not able to do it, if you're not in a position to do it, at least knowing what you'd like to do. I feel really sad for people, who leave college and haven't got that thing that to be able to cling on to, that goal to aim for. Because even if you're not doing it, at least you know. it gives you something to strive towards. And at least, as an actor, you have that all the time. You know, you're constantly trying to just get up the ladder a little bit, you know, and you have to deal with rejection all the time. And that's okay. You know, I think that's probably quite healthy in some ways. I took my daughter to an audition. She wanted to audition for a show once, and for Matilda. And I said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she went, "Yep." And she went to the audition, and then they did the dance, and then they said, "Okay, you can go now." And she cried all the way home and went, "Why would anyone want to do that for a job?" And then, you know, a couple of days later, a friend of mine phoned up and said, "They're looking for someone to be in this film. They're looking for a 10-year-old girl." I said, "Listen, she's had a very bruising experience a couple of days ago. She might, I'll ask her." And I said, "Look, they're looking for this little girl." And she went, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But what about 2 days ago when you said it's the worst thing ever?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh no, you've got the bug. That's
it.
That's a bad sign. It's like being smashed in the face with a spade and then going, that really, really hurt. Do it again. It might not hurt as much next time. But I've definitely got a numb face now from being hit in the face with a spade, because it doesn't hurt as much now. Someone said to me once, if you don't get a job, it's not because you weren't any good, it's because they made a terrible mistake. Which, it's quite nice to say to yourself, you know, if there's a job that you really want and you don't get, that it's not your fault, it's them.
No, that's very inconsistent.
It's not always true.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because we spoke about this pretty briefly before. So you and I, when it comes to cricket, we're both spinners.
Yeah.
And something that we rely heavily on is, so for anyone who's not very interested in cricket, doesn't know, spinners bowl slower, don't we? And we rely on the fielders as much as we do our own bowling. And it's a similar concept, isn't it? You feel like you've gone into that audition, you've done everything you can, and then someone drops your catch, and it's just it's one of those things you try so hard, it's out of your control. Do you think having those experiences in sport where you feel like I've given my all, I've gone out there, I've given 100% effort, and then it's out of your control? Do you feel like there were parallels between that element of sport and when it came to sort of being in auditions and being in your early years?
I've not really thought about that before. I definitely think sport is a great way of dealing with failure.
Yeah.
And failure is a very, very important and useful thing to have to deal with, because we have to deal with it throughout our lives from different areas. And control is an interesting, the appearance of control, because you definitely can't do that within a team. You can't control your whole team in the same way you can't control your workplace and relationships within your workplace. So I'd never really thought about that. It's interesting.
So you reckon there are some parallels that you have developed within sport that you've then taken into acting?
Yes, it must have done.
Yeah.
Certainly the concept of working as a team. Particularly in theatre, the nature of working as an ensemble. Filming slightly different because it's much more fractured, and you don't necessarily meet the majority of the cast. But when you're trying to create a piece of theatre with people, you're in control of the focus as a team. You can't have someone doing some weird stuff at the back, which has got nothing to do with you. In a film, the editor and the director could control the focus of the film, but it's definitely. There's no greater feeling of being with a big group of people on a stage, creating, when you've got people by the short and curlies.
No, that's really useful. And I think I was listening to something the other day about, I think it was a director who said something along the lines of the sort of like storming and forming part of getting all the actors together, you know, sort of the preparation before going on stage is kind of the bit that the actors and everyone really actually enjoys the most. It's sort of like once you then get on stage, it's kind of like the best bit's almost done. Or do you feel like actually no, going on stage as well and repeating it and trying to rekindle that fire you had?
There's definitely a joy with, you know, trying to maintain something and trying to find new things through performance. I do enjoy that. But yeah, making the brew in the rehearsal room and being with because as soon as you've opened the show, everyone buggers off in all the creative team, which is always a bit of a sadness because you've got like a big family and then all the grown-ups leave you to it, which, you know, sometimes is great. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes the grown-ups can be a pain in the bum. But with Harry Potter, I loved the creative team so much, and they were probably one of the most creative experiences of my life, which was a big surprise. You know, joining a huge franchise, I thought it would be much more regimented, but it wasn't. So, yeah.
Do you want to talk us through the process of how that all came to be and what it was like to, I presume, meet J.K. Rowling and things?
Yeah.
So how did it all start?
I just got a phone call saying, can you come and do this workshop? It's top secret. And I went to this office and there was a thing and it said something about trains. And I said, what is it? And they went, it's Harry Potter. I went, oh, right. I didn't know much about Harry Potter.
Right.
I'd sort of read a couple of the books, seen a couple of the films, and I went, what part am I reading? And they went, Ron. And I thought, that's weird. I went, I'm really old, though. I don't quite understand why. And they went, just read it. And anyway, I called my agent and went, it's Harry Potter. And she went, oh, right, okay. And then there was another workshop when they were just trying stuff out, and then they did another workshop, and then they were all different people, and I was still there. It's a bit like being an actor, I think. I've just sort of kept on coming back, and I'm still going, and other people have fallen by the wayside. So I sort of got the job just by sticking around, I think. And then the last workshop we did, we performed it in front of J.K. Rowling, which was the first time that I met her. And then the director sneakily came up to me at the end and went, you're going to do this, aren't you? And I went, yeah, of course I am. Yeah, if you get offered an opportunity like that to do a brand new show, especially something with as global interest as Harry Potter, then you're going to do it. So it was.
That's the coffee machine every time. It does this. This has happened twice now, isn't it?
Delicious coffee though.
It is good coffee. It's great coffee.
I think if you ask me, take away the coffee machine, you lose the noise in the coffee, I'd probably say no. It's worth it for the coffee.
What is it doing?
It's
just sort of like filtering out.
It's just a feature of the podcast now.
Yeah,
every single podcast has been interrupted in some way by the coffee
And that
machine.
was I won't name drop a coffee brand, but that was our sponsored coffee break there from XYZ Coffee Break. There we are.
I think 4 workshops I did before I started rehearsals.
Right. Did you, coming back to the start, I know we were talking about one of your earliest memories of sport was to do with the whole not being picked.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel there was an element of, because there is a sort of, the more workshops you do, the less people there are, and people get told where thank you but no thank you, etc., etc. Did you find there were any parallels between that whole like, oh, will I get picked, well I won't get picked, with that sort of like, we'll have you on our team, we won't have you on our team when you were younger in sport? Do you feel like there's an element of that?
Yes. I mean, initially when I first started out, I don't know whether you've ever seen the film of Chorus Line.
I haven't.
You know, you go to an audition, particularly for musicals, and you do a dance audition, and then they go, right, you stay, you know, you come and sing your song. Mercifully, that only happened at the very beginning of my career, of going to auditions like that, which is really hard work. You know, there are times, you know, if you're going to be humiliated, it's nice to be humiliated in the comfort of your own home, not necessarily in a room full of your peers. This, you know, as I said, you know, not getting a job, it's because they made a terrible mistake, but mercifully that doesn't happen. I think it probably does still happen for younger people, but I don't have to do that as much anymore.
Cool.
I think we'll head on out to America now, because you've not only done the production here in England, you then went out to America to do it at Broadway, and I gleaned that you've tried to hold on to cricket as much as you can, but I think softball's as close as it can get out there.
I did. I got asked to go with the show to go and open it in America, and of course you're going to do that. But I'm 45 now. I'm trying to cling on to a bit of cricket, but I'm not sure. I did play one game this summer. I was rubbish. So I think it's me and all the old boys now. But I did try and search out some cricket, and there is cricket available in New York, if you move out a little bit. But I discovered that there's a thing called the Broadway Show League, which has been running for many, many years in Central Park and involves all the different Broadway shows. So I said, right, we need to get a Harry Potter team. And most of the team was made up of British people who had no idea of the rules. And I thought it's just going to be like rounders. It's much more complex than rounders. And as we found out to our detriment, when our first game, it was called a mercy rule, when if you're losing by a big enough margin, they go, do you know what, guys, we're just going to stop it now, because it was getting embarrassing. And we made the New York Post as the least successful team in Broadway Show League history. So that's a badge of honour. But then, you know, we were sort of the plucky underdogs, and suddenly we started knowing the rules and getting a bit better and getting a bit more confident. And there was dizzy scenes in Central Park the day that we beat Kinky Boots, who were the second worst team in Broadway Show League history. But it was brilliant. It was I really loved trying to learn a new game at the age of 44 or whatever I was at the time. And our best player, because I for some reason I was the manager of this team, and I put a thing on the notice board at the theatre. So is anyone interested? Because it's all, anyone who works within the theatre is eligible to play. And there's one of the cleaning ladies arrived at my door, and she's called Daisy, and she's Dominican. And she went, "Hi, I am very good at softball." And I went, "Okay." She's got to be late 50s, I think, Daisy. She's our best player by a country. I think she used to play for the Dominican Republic. And she's very strict with everyone and is amazing. Wow. She's a brilliant pitcher and was really good at teaching us all that. She was very patient with all the hopeless British people. And it was a lovely thing to be part of.
It's because we've spoken about the importance of competition in children's sport before, but we've also discussed the importance of it not being the main thing. When you first started playing, do you think that, because as you say, you struggled as a team initially, do you think that even though your goal, once you realised the standard was what it was and you were like, okay, let's be realistic about it, when you realised that your goal wasn't to win everything, and that wasn't like, if we won, that was success, and if we lost, that was failure. When you change that sort of perspective, what was the impact it had on you guys as a softball team, but as a cast as well? Were there sort of overlapping bonuses to both, that, you know, you had a really good rapport on stage and that showed in the softball, or you had a really good rapport that was built through the softball and that actually benefited the play itself?
I definitely think, you know, company morale is a hugely important thing, especially when you're, you know, going out as a team 8 times a week in front of people. And there was 40 in the cast, which is that's a huge cast of people, all in a confined space. Most, you know, you share an awful lot of time with each other. So if there's fun stuff going on and you feel people are pulling their weight, whether it be on a softball field or on the stage, that's a great feeling. To be able to work well as a unit. I mean, we were a pretty shoddy unit in Central Park, but everyone was trying their best and wanting to get better.
Yeah, and you feel like you guys did progress. You feel like you improved.
Oh, definitely.
That's brilliant. Because I know there's a lot to be said for the sort of, rather than worrying about the result, as in instead looking at, we were here, let's just worry about where we're gonna go in relation to where we were. Yeah. And that improvement, I think, is quite freeing as well, isn't it?
And also, you know, for a lot of American people, that they've been chucking baseballs around since they were kids. It's, you know, it'd be like us going to the park and playing football or whatever. You know, it's just culturally, that's what happens. Whereas there's a whole different technique to catching it, and I think that was my trouble when I came back and played my one very poor game of cricket. I think I nearly broke my finger by thrusting my arm towards it. But
Brilliant. Well, yeah, there's lots of parallels between cricket and softball, isn't there? But they're
certainly are
very different at the same time.
And then out in America, you've obviously almost, I don't know, acclimatised to it to a certain extent to being out there. I know you're going back on the 4th of Feb to rejoin the cast. But I know that you've seen a couple of things that are different culturally with regards to well-being out there in America. So yeah, would you like to expand on what you've seen and any thoughts you have on that? It was really interesting being with some, you know, 24, 25-year-old Americans. I mean, I think it maybe is specific to New York, but I, in the last few years, have taken a much more active part of my own mental health in terms of, you know, therapy and you know, various other techniques for looking after myself. And there was a day that I asked one of the guys if he was going to go to the gym, and he went, no, I've got therapy today. And I was trying to imagine myself as a 24-year-old man being so open about therapy, and I definitely had a cynicism about things like that in my 20s and 30s, and would be quite dismissive of it. But I think as I've got older and hopefully a little bit wiser, and I loved their attitude towards taking care of themselves, both physically and mentally. That the openness with which that was talked about, and the fact that people are very happy to go to a physiotherapist to get whatever aches and pains are sorted out, but less willing to go and do that to sort out their head. And it's hard being a grown-up. It's hard being a child too, but it's, you know, that we're everyone, in my opinion, needs a little bit of help. Yeah.
And you know, through some of the difficulties I've encountered as an adult, the best thing that I've ever done is therapy, by far.
So what has it given you? Because I know that different people take different things away from you know, therapy or any level of self-help that they're sort of seeking. What has it done for you, either psychologically or physiologically or otherwise, to help you day to day or also within your role?
It's definitely given me tools to cope with adversity and tools with which I can hopefully deal with things in a healthy manner. Because I definitely, was prone to some more destructive behaviours and, relationships and all of those sort of things. Don't always get it right. Just last night, I was shouting at my daughter. And I was thinking, you said, one of the questions that you ask is, what's your definition of success? And halfway through shouting at poor old Florence, I thought, this is probably not success. But success is, I strive to find alternative ways than shouting at my daughter, and kinder ways to treat myself and other people.
And I know this is very personal stuff, so thank you for going into this. But has there been any takeaway tool that you think has been something that you can either share with other people and be like, this was one tweak that someone said to me once, or this like in this instance I now reframe this differently? Have you got any sort of examples of tools that you now use?
I think patience and taking a moment is a hugely important thing. Someone used this acronym of THINK to me once, which, if you want to react to something, is it thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary, or kind? And if it isn't those things, generally, shut up.
No, that's a really
And it's and I found that very useful, because if by the time you've gone through that checklist, most of the time, just go, actually, it's not worth it, and it's solved me a lot of it saved me from a lot of aggravation in recent years.
That's a really
useful. I think we'll definitely keep hold of that one ourselves. I think that's really useful. On the sort of staying with it in some ways with the sort of support and help, but tweaking it slightly. We've spoken about the role that other people supporting and other people being kind to each other has helped. Is there anyone, perhaps recently, perhaps when you were younger as a child, or whenever in your life, that you feel like anyone who has been a really good mentor to you, or someone who has helped support you in any way?
There's been an awful lot of people. I mean, I have a big memory of a history teacher I had at school, called Mr. Chaberas, who was a lovely man. And I think I was just struggling a little bit as a teenager, and he would say, you can come and see me, and then I'd have to give him 5 pence. And he went, right, now this is a professional situation, so you're paying me, so I can't say anything to anyone else. I'm your therapist. And I remember that was a massive kindness with his time and his compassion. That's my earliest memory of that sort of kindness. And I'm littered with people who've been ridiculously patient and kind with me, and teachers and lovely old actors, and there's a whole raft of people who've given me advice. Sometimes I didn't quite appreciate it at the time, and hopefully as you go on, you go, oh yeah, you were right, weren't you? It's quite annoying, isn't it?
Have you got any of those people who spring to mind now? As someone you're like, actually, you know what, you were right.
I mean, my mum, my poor old mum, I wish I wish I could turn back the clock in that respect and go, oh yeah, I wish I'd been more patient and kind. I wish I'd been thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary and kind with her.
That's interesting. It's similar to another podcast guest that we've spoken to, Maureen O'Callaghan, and she said if she had one message, it would just be to be kind. And that was very poignant for me, I think, definitely, which is interesting. We'll come back very quickly to, we mentioned it earlier, about success. Mm-hmm. I know, similar to the mentor question, it is quite vague, it is quite broad.
Yeah.
But I think that's the brilliant thing about success as well. It can be anything to anyone. As best as you can, because it's, as I said, very difficult to hone it down to one meaning. But what do you regard as success to yourself?
I think being able to take responsibility of myself, well, primarily of myself. Being able to take responsibility physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I can pay my tax bill at the moment. I can heat and clothe my children. That feels like a success. And being able to communicate in my relationships in as healthy a way as I can. And when I can't, being able to take responsibility for that too, and being able to apologise without exception, without saying I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but is not a sorry, in my opinion. And when I do up, which happens regularly, I can hold my hands up and go, okay, and really try not to do that again. Mm-hmm. That's a very long-winded expression of my success, but that's what feels a success to me.
No, I like that, and that's why we do long form things,
Okay.
to allow for that clarity. It really is beneficial for, I think, for the listeners.
For
That's great.
complex questions, you need complex answers.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as.
They do. So as a parent, has there been a role that you've seen either exercise or sport play in your children's lives?
Yeah, I mean, my older daughter was very heavily into dance, so she was constantly doing that, and I think I'm really hoping that the younger one is going to find that thing, the equivalent of my cricket, that will set her up for her future, because my mum was quite a sedentary person, and I definitely think that contributed to her ill health in later life. And for me, the last few years I've very much got into attempting to be fitter and actually enjoying running. But I'm only enjoying running because at the age of 40, someone showed me the technical aspects of how to do it. I hadn't really ever been told how to run properly. And someone took the time to do that, and it opened up a whole world of endorphins for me. And I would love that to happen for my younger daughter, well, for all kids really. I don't think having one lesson of PE a week helps at all. I'd love there to be much more time spent outside at school. My younger daughter's been at school in New York for a couple of years, and they struggle for outside space in the middle of Manhattan, but I still wished they'd got out more. I would love schools to spend more time outside.
And what do you think is it that has been a common denominator within you finding cricket and your first daughter finding dance? What do you think it is that allows children to find their thing? Is it just pot luck, or do you reckon there are a couple of things you can try and channel in, or is it just a matter of trying as many different things as you can?
I think probably just trying as many different things as you can and seeing what sticks. The older one, did most clubs you can do, and just waited for the point when you'd either bought the instrument or paid for the uniform to then decide it wasn't for her. So that's generally the point. But yeah, just keep going until you find something that you like and you're excited about, and you want to go.
I think it's similar to that idea of, I know sometimes you might, that children play sport and they might not necessarily be enamoured by it, but they might not be like, oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
But there are some sports where children play, like we spoke about with the metaphor of the being hit with a shovel.
Yeah.
There's that weird allure with sport, isn't there? That even if you, say for example, I hated rugby. I remember playing contact for the first time, and I lasted about, we weren't even playing contact, it was with those pads.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me. I was like, right, I know this is all spongy and all protected, but I'm out. Sport has that allure that even if something like you're being rejected with the auditions, even if you get hit by that spade, it keeps you going back.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if you agree, but the more times you get hit with that spade, even if it is a bit of a sort of negative, not necessarily negative, but not an enjoyable experience, I think it makes you want to go back and find that sport. And like say, Florence is looking for that and trying to find that, and hopefully the more she tries, the more she'll be able to get there.
What I never realised with running is you actually need to run for about a mile before you get that rush. And you've got to put the work in for that mile before you start getting the good stuff. Yeah. And I'm a bit annoyed that it took me that long. It took me 40 years to get to that point of just do it. Do it for a mile and then you'll get it. Commit to it. And
you said you got some tips on it. What physiological changes did you make to run in a more, a better way?
You lifting your chest, using your arms. I was very, hunched over. It was all the effort was being put in the wrong place. Using your bum, lifting your chest, and using your arms, and keeping your face relaxed. Suddenly opened up a whole new world. I know for lots of people can just run. It wasn't something that I could do. Listen, I'm not fast by any means, but I can do it and get round and enjoy it.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, a big thing that we tend to do when we go into different schools, one of the things I do is I teach children to run on the balls of their feet, which is just a game changer because there are so many heel runners, and like the knee injuries and other things that come from that. So yeah, I mean, the physiological difference of knowing how to run to be able to go for that distance is something that we take for granted. It's like, oh yeah, kids they'll know how to run. It's like
I don't think they will. Well, I didn't.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting bit.
Yeah, similar to what we talked about earlier with the whole exercise and opening your eyes. When you are, say, if you're in the middle of doing a run of shows, for example, do you have a specific exercise routine that you try and keep to, or is it sort of an if and when you feel like it's good for your body speaks to you, basically you need to go through it?
I try and do something every day, and I think I tend to get more drawn towards high intensity classes because it gets everything going, but I have to force myself to use more weights and try and do more stretching because of my age, and I think that's in terms of trying to look after yourself, you have to try and do all of those things and cover all of that. But I try and do something every day, and often with work, especially theatre work, that involves warm-ups. When you do, for instance, with Harry Potter, there's a group warm-up every day, and it might be a bit of yoga, or it might be some Tabata or something like that that you all do as a unit, which is always quite a nice thing to do.
And so someone organises that per show.
Yes, you'll have a movement captain on a show like that who'll get paid an extra few dollars.
And they're part of the cast.
Yeah, they're part of the cast. Generally, it's quite a physical show, so they're generally dance trained.
Okay, that's really interesting. And what's it like? Have you been for a run in Central Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
that Would you say there's an element of, say if you go for a run, is there an element that the actual scenery and the environment of the run is important?
Yeah, although, I have enjoyed running on treadmills as well.
Yeah.
That can have, sometimes it feels a bit better for your knees. Gives you a little bit less impact. But yes, there's not. If you're in a place like Central Park, it's really exciting. Yeah. But I've got quite into park run recently. Do you know about park run?
Yeah.
And a friend of mine's involved with that organisation, and he's said that there hopefully will be, because New York's never had one. So they're hoping to start one up in the summer.
That'd be amazing.
Which would be great.
Because it obviously started in
Bushy Park.
In Bushy Park, yeah.
Which is coming back to the whole importance of the scenery and everything. Do you ever run in Bushy? Because I know I think I take Bushy for granted personally.
Yeah.
I run in there and I just feel like there is so much value in just the nature of it. Do you find running around Bushy's
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of firsts for me. Bushy Park. I won't go into all of them. I used to go and smoke cigarettes in Bushy Park, and now I'm running around it. It's first place I played cricket. It's an amazing place. My first park run. It's brilliant.
For those people who don't know where it is, we're in Richmond Borough, so Bushy Park is a royal park within that, and it is something that I think locally we do take for granted, and you've got to check yourself every now and again and be like, there are deer here.
That's always fun when you play cricket at Hampton Hill, and we're all so used to the deer just marching across, and people come and freak out.
It's hilarious, isn't it? What the oppo are just
there's deer. What's going on?
Yeah.
There's just deer. Don't worry about it.
So, slightly changing gear again about the feeling of potentially overwhelm. So whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, or I know we've touched on a couple of things already so far around overcoming it. Do you benefit? Are you the sort of person who benefits from making lists? Are you the sort of person who benefits from any sort of daily routine around anything along those lines? Or maybe is there an example of a time where you've recently felt overwhelmed, and then how did you come back, or how did you reframe, or anything around that?
I think with therapy and various other stuff, I'm getting better at, is there anything I can do about this? Is there something positive that I can do about this? Because there's lots of things that I have we talked about earlier, you have no control over. Yeah. If someone drops your catch, you have no control over that. So, in essence, it's not something you should worry about or be fearful of. And letting go is quite an important thing. I'd love to be better at meditating, and sitting quietly. I have ambitions to do more of that.
So is that something that you sort of dip into every now and again when you got time, or is that something you're...
Yeah, I did read something once that it would be great to have half an hour a day sitting quietly with no distractions, unless you're really busy, in which case you should take an hour. Which is, we can get all caught up with, I'm really, really busy, and I would always, when I wasn't exercising, would always use the excuse that I haven't got time. There's always time to look after yourself for a little bit. You can make that time, get up an hour earlier, or whatever, or do something at lunchtime. I think we're really good at making excuses for doing things that challenge us.
Because I know you meditate. So when we go to the gym, we spent the last 10 minutes, and I spent the last 10 minutes on the treadmill looking over at Tom enviously in his sort of like Zen mode, because I know in myself I haven't taken anywhere near, like you said, I would love to be able to be better at it as well, and I should and I will work harder at it. But what do you find are the benefits to meditating? Because I know you meditate every time we're in the gym for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I started trying it. I mean, so before I went into teaching, I worked with a part of a company who was about mindfulness and all that sort of thing. And then like through Maureen, who we're going to have on the podcast, and all of that was a part of me understanding that it was a thing and blah, blah, blah. And the back end of my psychology degree, I did it all on like third year, it was all positive psychology and it's all well-being. So for me, but I've dipped in and out, because like you, it's not easy. It's not like the sort of thing you go, oh, close your eyes and it's just like popcorn, thoughts come in your head, and you're just like, people are saying you've got to try and this, that and the other about getting rid of thoughts. It's all about being still and all that sort of thing. But then I got some really good advice, which was the point of it, more so at the start, but also as you carry on, is not about the rate of how many thoughts come into your head. It's just the process of there's a thought and just let it go away. That's the real thing you're practicing. It's not actually about going, gotta be nothing, and every time something comes in your head you're annoyed about it.
Yeah.
It's about let go of that thought.
Yeah.
Get that thought go away.
And it's the journey of getting there, and I think it's we all want to be good at everything.
Yeah.
And I think meditation is one of those things when we all envisage ourselves, cross-legged at the top of a mountain, at one with the world, and feel like I'm not there.
Yeah.
But I did go to one meditation thing, and they said, okay, we're going to now spend 20 minutes in a group meditation of everyone being quiet. It was the longest 20 minutes. I thought, surely this has got to be over. It was really hard, and that showed me that you're not really good at this yet.
Yeah.
You need a bit more work to do.
Yeah. Something we haven't touched on yet. We've spoken about you going back to America and whatnot. When you travel, is there anything that you do that helps you? Because I know when I travel, and I've had the absolute pleasure, family, of travelling with you, it must drive my parents insane, but it drives me insane as well. I don't dislike travelling, but it has its stresses. Do you have any routines that when you travel, for example, I don't know how often you are going back and forth, but if you are flying about, any routines that you go, I need to make sure I do that when I fly? Or
I mean, if I could always fly on my own, that would be great. Flying on my own, on your own, is so easy. Don't have children. There we go. One of the things, I used to smoke, and I think one of the greatest joys about no longer being a smoker is plane travel. Because as a smoker, I spent the whole time going, when's the next time I can have one? When's the next? And the freedom of going into an airport and not having 9 cigarettes on the bounce because you're not going to have one for another 14 hours or whatever, and that constant tension throughout being on a flight, and can I get away with vaping in the toilet and all of that nonsense. So no longer being in the prison of smoking is amazing. So and I sort of revel in that every time I get on a plane.
Yeah, because I find when getting on a plane, you have a allotted amount of time where you don't have those usual distractions that you usually do.
Yeah.
So one of them is if you're talking about smoking, you cannot smoke. One of them, for example, is I was on a flight recently, my phone died.
Yeah.
And the electronics on the plane were kaput, as in the entertainment systems.
Yeah.
So everyone is in effect, unless you've got a book, is sort of, right, this is me now for the next however long. Do you, when you're actually on a flight, or do you think there's parallels, basically, I'm trying to get at, between having that freedom, and if we go back to meditating, of just being able to put a time aside? Do you see, as the more you've done your acting, the older you've got, do you find there's actually a lot to be said about putting aside more time?
And not being contractual
just to
as
go,
well.
just to go, this is my time, basically.
I'm quite sad that you can now get Wi-Fi on on planes because there's a joy in that.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he works in property and he was travelling with his family to Canada and he got off the flight and he opened his phone and the first email he read, there was some massive crisis involving lots of people, and he went down the whole thread of these emails. And by the time he got to the end, whatever that crisis was had all been sorted out. And if he'd been on the phone, he'd have been in the maelstrom of trying to sort out all of this stuff. And it feels like life's a bit like that. Sometimes just you don't have to get involved and then it will sort itself out. So I do enjoy that aspect of it, certainly, flying. And hopefully the idea of being sat next to someone on a plane with them talking about whatever meeting they've got coming up, it's bad enough on a train, but yeah, I hope that doesn't happen.
And you said, you used to smoke. Is that how did you go about the process of changing to either not smoke as much or stop smoking altogether?
I had to have a very expensive gum operation, which was excruciatingly uncomfortable, really expensive, all caused by smoking. And I've been waiting to have an epiphany about smoking for years, but I hadn't really wanted to. And I think it all has to come from you. I mean, lots of people had said to me, "Oh, you shouldn't smoke." But I think as human beings, as soon as someone says you shouldn't do that, we're obtuse and go, "Well, I'm going to," just because you've said that I shouldn't. And when people stopped telling me what I should be doing was the moment I actually decided, I think I want to do this. And it was really easy. I just decided I didn't want to do it.
You just went cold turkey from that day?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So physiologically, were there lots of urges to fight, or was it quite useful in that you were like, no, you know what, I want that, and that was it?
I'd just made a decision and ate carrots.
Carrots?
Someone said to me, cut up lots of carrots. And, so I spent about a week eating quite a lot of carrots. And then I thought, I don't need to eat carrots all the time. Once I'd made my mind up, it was really easy.
Double bonus, stop smoking and start seeing in the dark as well.
There you go.
Good week for you there.
Yeah, very good week.
Brilliant. All right, I think we're now ready for some quick fire.
Okay.
Or quicker. I mean, they're never that quick.
Yeah, they're never that quick. Some of them are quicker than others, aren't they?
And also, we've had loads of questions from people who are subscribers to the channel already and things like that. Like I said to you earlier, I think there's a big overlap between teaching, coaching, and also acting. Lots of actors used to be teachers or teachers who are just in acting or vice versa. So there are a lot of things along those lines. I think I'm going to start with, what change of mind have you undergone in recent years which has had the most positive influence on your life?
I think, as I touched on earlier, but I think my cynicism about therapy and self-help.
And
how recent are we talking then? So has that been in the last year or a couple of years?
I'd say 5 years.
Perfect.
Interesting.
I like that.
We've spoken about Paul the actor. We've spoken about Paul the cricketer and softball player. What have you found to be the biggest challenge of being the manager of the softball team? That one single thing that's like, as a manager / coach, this is the one thing I struggle with the most.
Ego.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Because you'll always get someone that wants to do everything. You're never going to make everyone happy. Someone always wants to be doing what they're doing. And then, so the second year, someone else was manager, and I loved it. I just Yeah, you deal with it.
Yeah,
You just in the corner, just watching this game.
Yeah,
You enjoy it.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just going to play.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do
So
it.
getting yourself and other people to realise that actually people's personal potential like needs are trumped by what's best for the team, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I also think I've definitely, I think something I used to do, I used to take on far too much responsibility in terms of other people and their emotions and whether they're up and their business and gossip and I think taking a step back from involving myself too much in other people's business has greatly helped my own serenity. Frankly.
Interesting.
Do you keep up to date with the news in any way in particular?
Certainly not as much as I did. I used to listen to news radio all the time. I listen to podcasts now. But I don't watch 24-hour news. I don't think it's necessary. I'll look at the BBC News website periodically, but certainly not as much.
And it's been such a freeing sort of like headspace, no short-term sort of like fight or flight response to every single thing I'm seeing, and like I think you've been saying as well, the whole thing of just coming away from other people's problems, and coming away from having to deal with all of these situations. If it's on the phone, put it away.
I did have a couple of friends that, when I was in America, going, "Don't come back. All anyone talks about is Brexit." It's all everyone talks about. I came back and it was still, Brexit bonkers. But I'd missed a significant chunk of Brexit bonkers. I still had quite a lot of Trump bonkers going on, and that's inescapable working in the arts in New York. But I definitely not bombarding myself with constant 24-hour news has helped me massively.
Brilliant. Jack?
What advice do you hear in your profession that is often given that you disagree with?
There's no such thing as a small part. That was something that one of the teachers at drama school told us. Yes, there is. If you're man at bar, be man at bar. Do your job. We don't all have to shine all the time. So that was terrible advice. Because everyone needs a moment to shine, and hopefully, with the right director, particularly in a play, people will get those opportunities. But you need to know when it is your moment, and when. I saw a play, a three-handed play. I'm not going to name the people in it. There was a bloke playing the main part who was really good, and then there was a very quiet scene with the two other people in the play, which was a beautiful scene, and he was at the back of the stage still crying, and you thought, mate, stop crying, this is their bit. It's just infuriating. And he had a big part, he had plenty of time to shine, so it's not your bit, basically. Know when it's your bit.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Keep your ego in check. Not every part is. I've got to be.
Yeah.
Everyone's attention's got to be on me all the time.
Yeah. Just do your job.
Perfect. Books. What is the book or books that you have gifted anyone else the most? Is that something that?
I read Russell Brand wrote a book called Recovery, which I found really interesting. It's his take on the 12 steps that he went through from his addictions, and I gave that to someone because I thought it was a really interesting read. I think giving the Roald Dahl books to my children was it was such a massive part of my childhood, and giving those to them has been a nice thing. I read quite a lot of audiobooks. Mostly they're generally either about the SAS or serial killers in London. I've not gifted any of those. But no, I think that's it at the moment.
Perfect. No, that's absolutely fine.
Nice one. This being in Broadway, I'm sure you can come into contact with some amazing people, no matter how well known or little known they are. But when was the last time you were starstruck?
I don't really get starstruck by actors, because I think I get more starstruck by sports people,
right?
Because that's not what I do.
Yeah.
Is
there anyone specific that comes to mind?
I think watching Tiger Woods play golf at the Ryder Cup was just standing next to him. That was extraordinary.
Yeah,
that was definitely the most amazing sporting event I've ever been to. The Ryder Cup, but we've had quite a lot of fancy folk come and see Harry Potter. Meeting Tom Cruise was pretty amazing, and he bought us all donuts and was lovely.
Good of him.
That's quite weird.
Yeah.
Meeting really famous A-list movie stars is quite weird, and all the people that come with them, and I don't know. I don't really get starstruck.
No,
that's interesting.
That's really, really good answer. We've talked about parenting every now and again. What is the best parenting advice that you received going into it? And if you haven't got that, then maybe some advice that you wish you had received.
I think I wish someone had said, it's not that great. Particularly at the beginning, my wife went back to work very soon after my youngest was born. And I found it really challenging and really isolating, and people go, isn't it amazing? Isn't it a wonderful thing? And no, I felt really frustrated. I didn't know what this baby wanted. I didn't have any experience of it. I kept thinking I was doing it wrong. I didn't want to go anywhere because there was so much stuff, and I kept worrying that I wouldn't have the right stuff. So just stayed indoors. Plus the fact there was, the majority of it was mothers, and I didn't want to discuss whether little Archie had started talking, walking, pooing, whatever. I didn't want to have those discussions with people, and I found the first year really hard and not that enjoyable. I wouldn't change any of it, of course, but I think there's a compulsion to talk about how great things are and to be positive about it all, and actually sometimes it's a bit.
No, I think that's a really good bit of advice. A lot of people do go into, we'll have kids and it'll be great.
Yeah.
But it probably will be great in certain parts, but having that forethought and forewarning of there will be dark times.
Yeah. And you will be a crap dad for quite a lot of it. Yeah.
It's interesting. A lot of advice is not always, but sometimes very, okay, what's the advice I think they want to hear?
Yes.
What is sort of palatable and really easy to digest.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it is really important to hear honest, open advice that is,
My favourite acting advice that I ever got. I had a job, and actors can be terrible old moaners. Even notoriously, you're unemployed for 6 months, and as soon as you get a job, people ask if they can have Saturday off. And I was moaning about something, and it was a really nice job. And this old actor went, "Darling, it's not fair, and don't be late." And that's, I think that's all right. And I saw Tom Hanks won a Golden Globe a few weeks ago, and he said something along the lines of, be on time, know your lines, and be nice to people. Which is a version of that. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good. And I think Kathy Burke's version is be on time and don't be a. Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
you
enough.
get the gist. You get the gist.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we've all got a version of it, but it's not fair and don't be late. I definitely take them with me.
Yeah, that's nice. That's cool. If you only had one text, and this again is a broad and vague question, so any answer is a good answer here. If you only had one text and it was going to go to every single phone in the world, what would you text on that message?
Put me down.
In what sense?
Put it down.
The phone.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That is liberating, isn't it? That's a great answer. Never thought about it like that. Never thought about it like that at all.
Yeah. When I was doing my dodgy parenting last night, that's what I was in essence trying to say. I said it in a less patient, honest, thoughtful, and kind way.
And then you went, think, Paul.
Yeah.
And you went, oh, right.
Yeah.
Lovely. No, that's a really, really good bit. I mean, I think distraction is so easy to just fall in the trap of. It's that whole. It is addictive. The whole psychology behind it, the dopamine hit that you're getting with the, oh, someone sent me a text. I'm liked. I'm, part of the. So it is toxic if you're not worried. If you're not too careful about it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a couple of audience questions in particular. Mm-hmm. So these are questions that have come in from the outside, from our subscribers. So it says here, in many professions, the well-being of the staff is starting to become more of a focus within the management side of things.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing that more? Is that more in America, more in England? And what is it that is being done about it, or isn't enough being done about it?
About welfare,
well-being, welfare, wellness in general, of looking after the staff, the cast that people have. So already you've said about a movement person who comes in. Are there any other examples of that?
I mean, there's certainly, the physiotherapy is provided if you need it. You could sign up for a massage once every week or once every couple of weeks. A lot of the time it depends on, on budget. If you're going to go and do a play somewhere that's not, a commercial success, they just haven't got the funds to be able to do that stuff. But they bring people in. That obviously, Me Too has had a big effect in workplaces, and there's lots of compulsory. The whole workforce has to attend these meetings and lectures about how to address people and how to discuss complaints and all procedure, which is I get, and that's something that's new and been brought in, and I'm lucky to work in a profession when there is an openness with which people can talk to each other, and sometimes that's tricky because it can make people uncomfortable because there's a certain it feels like the rules are different sometimes, and we don't talk to each other in the same way that people who worked in the banking sector would talk to each other. But we also have to have an awareness that that's not always appropriate and can make people feel uncomfortable. But I love the way that the younger people I'm working with feel able to express themselves and express how they're feeling about something. It feels that we've come an awful long way, and people aren't dismissed in the way that they might have once been. But at the same time, you know, there are times when it's not fair and don't be late.
Nice one. This has come from a couple of our subscribers and friends of ours who are starting up in the acting world and the drama world. So if you, for example, auditioned and you didn't get the role you wanted or whatever it may be, was there anything, or is there anything you do to help you deal with that rejection?
Not really. I mean, other than they've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
You know, that thing. Just got to get back on the horse. You know, it's sometimes if you've really. Sometimes the process, you'll audition for something and then you'll have a recall and then you might meet the director and the process can go on and on and on and on and on, and then not to get it can be really hard. And there's been a couple of times in my life when there's been a part that I've really wanted and it's not worked out, and that's you have to grieve for those a little bit, but then you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to buy a ticket to the lottery in order to be there, really.
Interesting. Another one we got from the audience was about techniques or preparation that you do ahead of auditions in particular. I know earlier on we were saying that nowadays actually for you it's a lot less in person and a lot more sending a clip and you're sort of sorting your own lighting out in a hotel room somewhere and trying to do those sorts of things. I suppose the question that these guys are after are more of the walk in the door kind of, everyone's there style thing.
Yeah.
Are there any tips that you've got from back then or nowadays with the more on your own do some things? Are there any techniques?
I mean, some people can learn lines really quickly. And I'm not one of those people. And there's just no shortcuts to it. You just have to put the hours in of learning whatever it is. I mean, sometimes they'll send you, 13 pages of scripts and go, you've got an audition tomorrow. And then you have to forgive yourself a bit and go, okay, I'm going to do the best I can. Maybe I'll do the first scene really well and the rest of it I'm going to read because I haven't been afforded that. I'm doing the best that I can do. And I think you always know that. And there's definitely been times when I've not put the effort in. And unsurprisingly, it doesn't work out. Likewise, there's been times I've worked really, really, really hard and still not got the job. But it's knowing what, it's taking responsibility for your, I hate people using the word craft, but, it's taking responsibility and when you haven't. And it makes you feel rubbish. So you might as well just put it in and then you never know how it's going to happen later on down the line. There's often been times, say for a certain TV series, you audition for one part and then in the next season or later on in that season, there's another part and they'll just phone up and go, you didn't get this, do you want to come and do this? So it's always worth putting a shift in, really.
And not burning bridges.
Yeah. Do you find how hard is it to strike that line between under-preparing and not doing enough, but also over-preparing as well? So say if you have got those 13 pages you need to read, is there a point in that evening, the night before, you go, do you know what, like, I know that opening bit.
Yeah.
How hard is it to find that balance between, right, I've done all I can, I now need to actually probably get a good night's sleep or have a good meal?
Definitely. No, my girlfriend is definitely an over-preparer. Definitely. And it was only when I saw her in action that I went, oh, wow, okay, that really is. But then to the point when it becomes, in my opinion, I wouldn't want to do that much. I'd be knackered.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really random segue, but we ended up on stage in front of you a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
With
You both look lovely.
Thank you.
and part of the process that we underwent was, I mean, the amount of times that we went through that very limited and not even particularly scripted thing to run through as just the two ugly sisters was a huge undertaking for the pair of us, and so outside of our, not necessarily totally outside of our skill set, because we obviously present and orate and manage and coach children and teach. But
That link again, isn't there?
yeah, there's a lot of overlap there. But yeah, for us, it was going through it so many times that come the end of it, we actually weren't that nervous before
we
going
weren't.
on stage, which was interesting. And that brings me to the next question, which was, have you ever had stage fright? Or have you ever experienced or been around others in that, you know, sort of like a supporting actor and like they've got it, or anything along those lines?
Definitely. I mean, I think most of the time, I used to get really nervous when I was younger because I didn't know what I was doing. And that's when nerves are generally when you're unsure of what you're doing. And that comes with being prepared, and the fact that you weren't nervous was because you'd run through it so many times. So you're used to, you know, it's polished. And the times of getting nervous are just generally when you're unsure of what you're doing.
Have there been any bits of advice that either you've given other younger actors who've experienced that, or anything, or anything anyone said ahead of that, or is it all just a case of like, you know, take the ego away from it, don't worry, it happens to everyone, and prepare more? Or is there anything else that you could unpick there?
Yeah, I don't. I think actors giving each other advice is tricky. It's particularly when you're doing a play with each other. Actors giving each other notes is a definite. You're not allowed to do that.
Right.
That's the director has to do that. So it can be a very sensitive area, because otherwise it can end up as a bit of a free-for-all. I think when you do witness someone with nerves, it happens sometimes with understudies, because they've not had the experience of working with the main cast. They may have understudied, rehearsed with the other understudies, and their first time on. And yeah, but you try and be kind and open and help them through. And you should know what you're doing more than they do. So if they mess up a few lines, sometimes it's great because it gives you a bit of a different rhythm to play with. And I'm definitely tolerant of people being a bit nervous. It's totally understandable if people have put the work in.
Right.
Do you perceive nerves as a good or bad thing? Would you trade them off? If someone said, no nerves ever again, would you say, yes, I'll take that?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. I think certain nerves can tip over the edge into... I think it's becoming too conscious, really, of yourself. And I think, yes, I'd love to never be nervous again. Yeah.
But a good balance.
Yes.
So sometimes, it makes you sort of go, I am nervous and I need to... Those nerves are, making me prepare and, thoroughly enough I have to.
I'm forcing myself to do... Well, I didn't want to, but my agent wants me to go and meet these people for a musical in America in a couple of weeks' time. And I've not really done a musical audition for a long time. So I had a conversation with him the other day and went, yeah, I don't think I really want. And he said, I think it would be a good thing to do. And I had to stop myself and went, ugh, it's because you're a bit scared, isn't it? And that's why. So anyway, I've said I'd do it. I don't want to do it because I know that I'm going to be nervous because I'm out of shape. I've not done that for a long time. And I'm going to have to put the work in, which is annoying.
But it all pays off in the end.
It does.
Brilliant. Well, I feel like we've come to a nice pause there before we head out to the shed to get your 3 dart challenge.
I might be nervous about that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well.
That gives us more to talk about, and yeah, no, I'm excited about the next step. So we're going to pause it there and head outside to the shed. Perfect stuff.
Nice one.
See you in a sec.
Hello everyone, we've finished our little break from the podcast. We're in the shed. I'm here with Paul. Hello Paul. And I'm here with Tom. We've also got Finn tucked around to the side as well. Hello Finn. We're here with Paul and he's doing his 3 dart challenge. Paul,
I just want to beat
initial feelings? You
I just want to beat Amanda.
Yeah,
That's
you
all I want.
confident?
No.
Brilliant, off you go. So,
Come on, Amanda.
oh, that's a big last dart. That is a massive dart. That is 81. First 3 darts, 81 for Paul Thornley, which immediately puts him at the top of the leaderboard. So can he better?
Just relax now.
Can he better that initial score? He's off again.
No.
Opting to always start 12s here. Yeah, let's start with the 12s.
Is that not what they do? These professionals up with 12s.
Lovely dart. So I'm going to clap that in. That's a great
number.
fun. So we could put that on the leaderboard over there. 81 for Paul Thornley.
Thank you very much.
Initial thoughts about that?
You're delighted. You're delighted to beat Amanda Lamb, that's all.
Well,
Look out, BDO.
Yeah, on his way. Paul, I think we'll bring it to a close there, won't we? Thank you so much for coming down today and chatting with us. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we certainly did, didn't we, Tom? And yeah, feel free to come back if you wish to. We'd
Thanks
love to
very
have
much.
you back. Pleasure. Thank you, Paul Thornley.
Thank you.
Point. Boom.
There you go. Great scenes. Thanks for coming. Great scenes. Well, I hope someone lets Amanda down politely.
I'm going to text her.
You can take a selfie of it if you want, mate. Send it straight over. I'll do it.
Actually, I might do that.
I'll hold it.
Well, a big thank you there to Paul for coming on the team talk. We really enjoyed that discussion, and also a big congratulations to him for his 81 in the 3 dart challenge.
We're going to leave a lot of links in the description there below, and also some timestamps and all the links to Paul's socials. Well, episode 4 is done.
It is completed. Please, as always, like and subscribe. All of that stuff is going on in the bar below. Take care, team, and we will see you very, very soon.
Ciao.